Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. Thank you so much for joining us for another insightful and deeply meaningful conversation. As we step into 2024, the Goldilocks community is inviting every one of you to take an inward journey and think about why it's important for you to be seen, heard, and understood. Your voice becomes your presence. And when you own your presence, you own your power. And when you own your power, you can step in to your authenticity and your purpose to shine and build the life that you dream of. How do you make that happen? Why it's important? And where are some places and spaces to practice and hone that skill? To win that confidence and embrace it are all going to be valuable elements of the conversation today. And to have this conversation with me is a dear, dear, dear friend of mine, my publishing partner, my international media partner, Rebecca Hogwriter. Rebecca, welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks.
Thank you so much. I'm honored and thrilled to be here, and especially really speaking about visibility. It is so important and something just near and dear to my heart. So, very honored to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Let's take a step back and talk about what prompted you to create the Speaker Talent Search. Because you're in the publishing world, you're in the Voice America radio podcasting world, and you're in the international media promotion world for authors, right? So given that that's where you are and people who come to you are already writers, speakers, what prompted you to step out of that zone and go towards people who are trying to get there?
Beautiful. Well, I created the Speaker Talent Search a number of years ago. I think it's almost been 10, it's 8 to 10 years ago. And I originally created it because as I was stepping into the speaking world, I found I had lots of opportunities. I was able to transition into that with ease, but I found that that wasn't always the case for everyone. In fact, I found so many people are really being called to step forward, especially now, to share their message and just aren't quite sure where to go. How do I start? How do I get my message out there? Or how do I step beyond my current circle, current sphere of influence? And so the Speaker Talent Search was created to help people make those connections, to help them get in front of decision makers who are actually looking for them, looking for speakers and experts. Because I also found on the other side, people who have events, people who have podcasts, who have television shows, who have radio shows, who are doing summits, are actually having difficulty finding the right speakers, the right talent, as we call it, for their particular stages. So the Speaker Talent Search was designed to help connect those two parties. And I have found through the years, even though the different ways we're showing up, the different types of medias, more and more online these days, there's still that disconnect between the two groups. So the Speaker Talent Search helps bridge that gap and bring them together where experts are actually able to be heard, be seen by those who are looking for them.
I love how proactive you were and how long range thinking this took to build it over the last 10 to 15 years. Because I remember before COVID, my podcast, Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, was on Voice America. Mm-hmm. And it was on the Women's Empowerment channel. And with COVID, all the audience were asking, can we go to a forum where we can see each other? Because our entire socialization is cut off. Just listening to this on the radio only extends the disconnect. We want to do face-to-face. And when I brought it over to YouTube, it was difficult. I didn't want to see my face continuously on YouTube. It was a mental block I had to get over. Speaking was not the problem, but I didn't want to be the face in front of the camera most of the time. And I also found that people who participated wanted to stay back and talk for hours because this became the socialization. And so from there, this has grown now 3.5 years into it in this medium. And my question is, what about the people who are comfortable speaking, but don't want to be in front of a camera? Somehow, whether psychologically they're programmed to believe that I need to be an arrogant, ego driven person with just constantly wanting to look at myself. They have a negative connotation to it,
Mhm.
or they're shy or ashamed or have some negative body image, face image that they don't want to be in front of camera. What advice would you have for these folks? Because their fears and their concerns are real.
Absolutely. I felt that way about film camera, being on stage, didn't want my picture taken, didn't want to be seen. And a lot of it was I didn't want to be the center. I felt like that was being the center, and that was uncomfortable. I didn't want lots of people looking at me and staring at me, and I felt weird looking at me. All of those things. And what I discovered visibility is really about, it's not about me. It's not about being the center. It's about being willing to be easy to find and connect with by those who need you most. And typically, they're not over analyzing us like we over analyze ourselves. They want to connect with a person, a real human being that they can interact with, that they can relate to. It's not about perfection, it's about connection. And if we're looking to make a difference, if we're looking to share a message, we're looking to be willing to help people on a heart true, authentic level, we have to be willing to kind of take away those barriers, take away those masks, and lead with that. And so, whether that's on stage, that's on camera, that's in an audio format, whatever it is, really look at who you're looking to serve. I love how you listen to your people and the platform they wanted to interact with, what they were needing, and you're willing to step into a space that was uncomfortable at first to be willing to do that. And I think that takes great courage. And look at all the lives impacted. And when we're willing to be courageous, we're willing to be a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit stretched, because we know it can make a difference for one. We can take those steps. That gives us courage. And we just remember it's not about being the center and the spotlights and all those things. It's about being easy to find by those who need you most.
And that is so true. That is the lesson I have learned in the last 3 years. The more raw it is, the more vulnerable and not perfect it is. That's what people gravitate towards when everything is structured and when everything is choreographed. People don't find it resonating. So, a lot of times, keeping it real, keeping the conversations not scripted, letting it flow organically, and getting the community involved have all been part of the success element. And what I am personally seeing is every week there is more and more engagement. Every week there are more and more people on one end. Then on the other end, there are people bombarding you from specific countries saying, you don't know to do this. I'm going to do this for you. Have you ever thought about this? Are you thinking about what you're doing? It doesn't look like you're thinking. All of these things that comes at you. How can people put themselves out there and yet find a way to block people, at least mentally, about the ones who are trying to make a buck off of you by making you feel insecure and tear you down to show you that you're not good enough, and without them, you're not going to be any good?
I would say the best thing to do is to remember your why you're here, what your message is about, who you're trying to reach, who they sometimes call your avatar, the person that you're trying to reach. And remember that you are perfectly equipped to reach them. You're designed, you're made for that. And each of us is made uniquely and differently on purpose. We're not supposed to do things a certain way, or especially the freedom that we have today with the technology and the different tools. The standards that were more stringent and structured and what was seen as professional has shifted a lot in the last 5 years. So things are more open. There are more ways that you can reach people. And we're finding that it used to be much more formal. You had to go to a studio, there were certain protocols, to be seen as a professional. Those barriers are gone.
Mhm.
So now it's really about showing up and being willing to be seen and connect. And it's just not about that perfection. And to kind of silence some of that noise, I find it's taking a breath. I'll do that before I go on a show or before I step on a stage or even on a stage. If I'm finding noise or distractions are coming, taking a deep breath and centering and remembering why I'm here and that I'm about making that connection and serving the people I'm called to serve. And the other thing I'll say, I sometimes call it ruffling feathers. So, one is silencing the noise. So, all that distraction, all that stuff that can feed into where maybe we're a little bit squiggly and uncomfortable. It's a great idea to actually pay attention to some of those things because the more we know ourselves, the more we know what some of our buttons are, the more we're able to not be triggered by them or not be made uncomfortable or shut down by them. If we know, oh, I'm a little sensitive about that camera, great, I know that. This is just reminding me of that. That's good. Let's take a breath and remember why I'm here. And you just trust that and keep going. The other thing that I think is really important to do in taking that breath, remembering why you're here, is we aren't meant to serve everybody. And it's okay to ruffle a feather or two, so to speak. And if you're not, that means you're probably not being as clear and as strong in the message that you're given to share. Now, we're not looking to ruffle and upset everybody. That's not the goal. But you want to make sure your voice, what you're sharing, is clear and strong enough that it doesn't resonate with everyone. And that way it is heard most strongly by those you're called to serve.
I love how you said that, Rebecca, because if we try to please everybody, then A, we are suppressing our own voice and our message. And B, we are going to be so milk and toast, we're not going to come across authentic. And therefore, we're not going to be believable. So there are at least 3 or 4 different ways we are completely messing this up. So that's a good reminder for our audience to remember as they step into their power and as they build their visibility. It's about being seen for who you are, the being that you are. And the message is emanating from your being. Therefore, it's real. And if somebody has a problem with the way that sounds or the way you look, have the courage to let it be their problem.
Mhm.
I love that message. So, what is the best way for individuals to start thinking about, do I want to engage in the speaker talent search? Is this the right forum for you? Who is this ideal for, or who should step into this?
It is a great fit for those who are looking to reach more people. Perhaps they're looking to step out of their current sphere of influence, whatever that may be, to get on additional stages, to reach beyond that current circle of connections. Speaker Talent Search is really great for that. It's also really good for those who are starting or maybe fine tuning. I found a lot of us go through different cycles on our journey where we're shifting our focus, we're going deeper, we're exploring, or we're looking at how can we share this aspect of ourselves or expertise that we maybe haven't shared before. It's a great place for us. So the Speaker Talent Search has a range of opportunities for people who are just beginning, who are more experienced, or who have been speaking for years. I love that it can serve a range. And what I would recommend, whether or not you're ready to send the application in, is I would go through the application process. It's an 18 question questionnaire, and these questions were created by talking to people who are looking for speakers. These are the things they want to know. And if you take time answering the questions, don't wait till last minute, the 11th hour. It'll come through stressed. We can tell that it's more of an essay type of response. You take some time to write, but the more you use that tool, the deeper you're able to go, the more clarity you find, the more confidence I find people get. And frequently, people will start getting speaking opportunities, never turning in the application just by going through the process. And we hope you do turn in the application, but even if you don't, if you go through the process, I find you start to speak a little bit differently. You're able to position yourself in a way that those who are looking for speakers can hear you and connect with you. You become easy to find for them. So I would recommend definitely checking out the Speaker Talent Search and to download that application. And I would strongly love for you and encourage you to turn it in because we'd love to meet you, to hear your message, to understand more about the difference you're looking to make in the world. But if you're not quite sure, the best step I find is download that application, start the process, and take time to go deep and see what bubbles up as you start to fill out the application.
Very, very nicely explained. So the process starts with the application.
Yep.
And once they submit the application, then the team reviews it. And then a group of people are selected and then invited to submit their second phase. What does the second phase entail?
Sure. So the step one is go to speakertalentsearch.com and download the application. Pay attention to the deadlines because they are firm. And my tip there is work ahead of the deadline just in case something comes up, something takes a little bit longer. That will help set you up for success. We take up to 300 applications. So, again, the sooner you start the process, the better. Once we receive the applications, you're absolutely right, Dr. Cass. We review them and we select up to 60 finalists. Finalists are then notified via email, letting them know they're selected, and they're invited to send in a 7-minute video. Now, this video is unedited, 7 minutes. And we ask you to have a beginning, middle, end. There's a couple other things we ask that you include in it, and you send that to us. My tip on the video, so you heard it here, watch it before you send it. Listen, because I can tell sometimes people just send it, they haven't watched it because the video isn't clear or you can't hear what they're saying. So you just want to make sure your message is clear. Now, we're not analyzing how professional your video looks or that sort of thing. We're actually trying to hear your message, who you are, what you're choosing to talk about in that time frame. So unedited is important. That's how we're able to authentically get a feel for you. And then you send that in. Those videos and finalist materials that you send in are then presented to the panel. And the panelists meets during the week of the Speaker Talent Search. They carve out time in their schedules to dedicate to watching these videos and finding that talent. They're excited to meet you, to hear your messages. It's one of their favorite things that they do. They carve that time out and they enjoy getting to know you. And we find every search I find, I guess I should speak for myself, but I hear this consistently with the panelists that I grow, I expand every time I hear your message, how you're sharing, what you're bringing to the world, your insight, what you've discovered, your brilliance that you're willing to share and entrust us on the panel with is very impactful and enriching to us. And at the end of that week, I reach out to everyone who's on the panel. Dr. Cass is on our upcoming panel, so very excited to have her joining us. And they let me know what sort of opportunities they want to extend to each of the finalists. And then I reach out to you, we schedule a time to talk, and I get to meet you in person, which I love. And then I also get to go through the opportunities with you to see what resonate with you and find to be a good fit.
Interesting. So I love how you have laid out the process, the 7 minute unedited video. And since I've been doing this with you for a few times now, they also have to give a speaker bio. They have to have an offer in their 7 minute presentation. Talk to us a little bit about why those elements are included and how incorporating them and thinking structurally through them is also a second layer of improving the presence of the speaker themselves in their own right.
Absolutely. So the bio gives us a quick snapshot of who you are. And it's also what was is used frequently on shows to introduce you. So it's good to see how you're positioning yourself. It's good to learn a little bit about you as we are getting to meet you in that 7 minute video. So it gives us a little bit of a background and an understanding. So, just general advice and tips on bios, you want to make sure that you're including your professional accreditation, your things that help you be positioned as an expert. This is a time to have maybe even someone come and help you and remind you of your brilliance and remind you of some of the amazing things that you've done. And you can include some personal things in that as well. But sometimes I find people go to one extreme or another on that. So it's really nice to be able to have very quickly summarize some of the highlights of your expertise, not 7 pages, some highlights that show why you are brilliant in this space and how important your voice is and what you're adding to it. So, quick snapshot, great to have a little bit of personal in there as well. And the 7 minute video, the offers and it can be something people pay for or don't pay for. You can include a couple offers. We have people do a variety of things. You get to choose. You have freedom in showing how you show up. But I find the energy can change sometimes when we shift into making an offer. And it's important to see if the energy changes, which is fine to have energy change, but are you still showing up in it? How are you? Are you being clear? Or is it clear that an offer has been made? And here's Rebecca, I don't want to speak on behalf of the whole panel, but here's my very biased opinion about offers and why I personally believe they're so important. When you're a speaker, when you're presenting, when you are sharing something that's touching people's hearts and lives, when you're willing to step into that space and you let them know how this could make a difference, how this shift in perspective can change their life. You're giving them hope. You're giving them important key information that's speaking to them, and then you just end and walk away, you're not giving them an opportunity to show that, hey, I can help you, or here's the next step. And to me, that's what an offer is about. If I'm saying your life could be this way, or you could have this, you could be empowered, you could be encouraged, you could live on purpose, that's great. But don't keep it a secret. Be willing to let people know, here's the next step, or here's how I can help you, or here's someone who can. Here's a way you can navigate going forward if this is a fit for you. To me, that's what an offer is about. It's extending your hand through all the noise of here's how I can help you. And it's up to them if they take your hand. If it's a yes or no for them, that's all good. But I feel like as messengers, we have a responsibility as an expert in this space to let them know, here's the next step you could take, and here's a way I could support you. To me, that's what an offer is about.
Brilliant. I look at it as, is there a call to action or did I just listen to something, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is passive, the other is active. And when there is a call to action, then all of that listening had a purpose
Yes.
and it gives direction. So that's what I am looking for. And a lot of times people don't make it clearly. And it feels like, wow, you spent 7 minutes and I still don't know what is at the end of that conversation, right? So you're so right. And it gives a discipline. But when we show up in our own spaces, in our own ways, on our own, how do we show up with a call to action? And there is clarity about the call to action. Otherwise, it's just information taken in. And I always in the business world ask the question, so what, who cares? Right? If we don't answer those two questions, then we have left the audience hanging. So I love how you have incorporated all of these elements and giving people the tools and the roadmap to get there. So, any piece of advice for individuals who are contemplating, we're seeing more and more men participate in this process. It used to be traditionally women, and COVID had made it comfortable for even men to be on Zoom camera, talking and having meetings. So, the barriers, luckily with COVID, there were not too many good things, but there were some good things. COVID has been one of the good things that brought about the comfortness of being in front of camera. Any tips or advice you have for people as they are contemplating, is this for me? Should I do this?
I would say sometimes we get in our own way, we overthink things, we analyze. And so I would encourage you, if you're feeling a pull, a curiosity, explore it, check it out and see. And the other thing, as you're going through the questionnaire, I would encourage you to do it with curiosity. See, what do I have to say about this? What do I want to bring forward? Who am I in this space? Why am I doing this? And do maybe a first draft that way. Then you can go back and tweak it and shorten where it needs to be shortened, make it maybe add in some things that you missed in sharing. But really use this as an opportunity to go deeper, because the deeper you are, the more grounded and rooted you are in your message, in your why, the stronger speaker and messenger you will be. That'll help drown out that noise. You'll be able to really bring forward who you are, because I know if you're watching, if you're listening, there's a reason. And I want to encourage you to honor that. And I encourage you to step in and really explore who you are, what your message is, and then honor that. Be excited to meet yourself in that way. If you're an experienced speaker, great. It's good to revisit those questions time to time. I've had people who have been traveling the world speaking on all different kinds of stages. In our conversation after they've gone through the process, they're like, Rebecca, this was such a great exercise to learn this about myself again or stretch myself in this way. Be willing to keep growing and discovering. And the speaker talent search, I feel, is a safe place to do that. Everyone on the panel, there's not some weird agenda. We're here to really find great experts and talents and bring them to the world. That's what we're doing with the speaker talent search. That's our heart, and we feel honored to be entrusted with your message, and that's how we hold this space.
That's one of the things that attracted me to become part of the panel, because it gives us as the panelists the opportunity to meet people we normally wouldn't cross paths, hear stories we would normally not run into because our world is different than most of the participants, right? And it truly opens up the ability to understand and take perspective. And that's why in the process we all grow. We grow because we hear different perspectives and we take the time to understand. And when we lift them up, we're lifting everybody up because it's the rising tides.
Exactly.
How can people get a hold of you, and what is the best way to access the speaker talent page?
Sure. The best way is to go to speakertalentsearch.com. Again, that's speakertalentsearch.com, and click on the search that you want to participate in. We have 3 that are going on in 2024. So right now, the applications are open for the March search. The deadline is January 31st. So pay attention to the deadline and watch the details. Make sure you send things to the right places each step of the way, because there are very specific instructions. part of being successful is following directions. And that's not just in the speaker talent search, but any sort of media types of things. It's a really important skill to have. So I always encourage, double check before you hit send, and that will serve you really, really well. Make sure you've included all the pieces that are being asked for. So speakertalentsearch.com is the best way to access information about speaker talent search. If you're looking to connect with me, I love connections, always happy to do so. You can reach me at Rebecca at yourpurposedrivenpractice.com. Rebecca at yourpurposedrivenpractice.com. And that is our main website as well. Your Purpose Driven Practice. We want to help you live on purpose and with purpose. Yourpurposedrivenpractice.com. So those are the best ways, but I am limited in the direction I can give you on the speaker talent search beyond today, because I want everybody to have an equal opportunity to be able to participate. But I'm always happy to connect and see where that leads, because connections matter.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I am going to open this up for our live audience for any questions, thoughts, and insights.
Hello, it is great to see you. And Rebecca, we have met before, and so it's like old home week. It's like a family reunion here at the end of the year. Happy New Year to all of you. And my question is, do you find a difference in kind of the challenges that people face, men who are submitting an application and women who are submitting application? And when you interview them and all of this, do you find that whatever concerns or hesitations that they experience are different between men and women, or is it just kind of a common humanity that people have to work through?
I feel like we're all people and we have our own things, whether male, female, whatever from a gender perspective we may identify with and bring forward. I feel like we still have that same humanness where we're wondering if we're good enough. Was I understood? Did that serve? Am I being heard? Doesn't matter. I find those are kind of consistent. I do find, and we saw this when I was in human resources as well, that when we look at applications, when we look at those types of things, I feel like sometimes on the female side, we hesitate, or we're making sure that we've achieved and checked all the boxes. And I think we hesitate a little bit more instead of just trusting, leaning in and trying. Let's try it. Let's swing the bat. Let's show up and go to the table. And we found that with applications and things, that men are really, really good at that and willing to lean in, even if they're, 70%, 80%, whatever, they're willing to swing and try. And I think there's something we can really learn in that, to take that risk, so to speak, and be willing to show up. So I have seen that as far as some of the gender differences. But when we're looking at the core of people and who we are, I think we're wanting to make a difference. We're wanting to be heard. We're a little bit risk adverse. And the more we're willing to stand in that place and be willing to be a little bit uncomfortable, maybe outside of our comfort zone, like Dr. Cass was sharing with the video, it's helping you reach people that need you. And to me, that's what the speaker talent search is about. So I hope that answers your question, Robin, and it's wonderful to see you.
Yeah, very good. Thanks.
Wonderful question. And thank you so much for posing that, Robin. And Rebecca, thank you so much for giving your time to educate our audience and putting this invitation to participate in the speaker talent search out there. My network knows about this. Some of them have already notified me that they are going to be joining and submitting, so I can't wait. And this is truly a good way to invite people and give them a roadmap to build their own visibility. When we say nobody sees me, nobody hears me, The first question we have to answer for ourselves is, am I showing up in a way that people can see me and hear me? If I am not making myself available, I can't blame others for not seeing me and hearing me, right? So everything in life is a double-edged sword. How do we show up as a whole from our side and then give everybody the opportunity to make that call? That is the power of the speaker talent search, and giving people to the opportunity to own their power and take joy in who they are and just embrace it. So to our audience out there, please access the website, go back and listen to some of the details and the elements Rebecca just explained, and take a step into the new year with the determination that you are going to be your best advocate. You are going to be the one stepping into the light and shining your light so that everybody can see you, hear you, understand you, engage with you, and be served by you.